The conference room of Graymont Industries gleamed with glass and power. Every chair around the long oak table held a person who feared the man at its head. Richard Graymont, the CEO whose word could build or break a career. And that morning he was about to destroy someone's. The job candidate sitting across from him, Evan Miller, clutched his resume like a lifeline. His suit was slightly worn, his voice trembling as he explained how he'd been laid off, how his wife was recovering from surgery, and how he was just looking for a second chance. Richard leaned back, his tone sharp as steel. "You expect me to hire someone who can't even keep a job? This is Graymont Industries, not a charity." The room went silent. A few executives exchanged uneasy glances, but no one dared speak. Evan swallowed hard, trying to salvage his dignity. "Sir, I just need an opportunity to prove myself. Richard cut him off. "You need pity, not opportunity. And that's not something I hand out." A quiet gasp escaped from someone near the door. Richard's daughter, Lila Graymont, had just walked in. She was visiting from Chicago, unaware her father's meeting had taken such a cruel turn. If you believe true kindness always finds its way back, please tap the like button now and subscribe to support more stories like this. Lila froze, taking in the scene. She saw the desperate man standing, his hands shaking, his face flushed with shame. And she saw her father, proud, unyielding, untouched by the pain he had caused. Evan gathered his papers, mumbling a quiet thank you before turning toward the door. But before he could leave, Lila's voice stopped him. "Wait." Her tone was calm but cut through the tension like lightning. Every head turned. Lila stepped forward, her heels echoing across the polished floor. "Dad, you just humiliated a man for asking for help. Do you even hear yourself anymore?" Richard's expression hardened. "Lila, this is business. The world doesn't run on sympathy." She stared at him, her voice trembling but firm. "No, it runs on power, and you've forgotten what power is for." The room fell silent. Lila turned to Evan, offering a soft, genuine smile. "Mr. Miller, I'm sorry for what you just went through. You don't deserve that." Richard's voice boomed. "Lila, this isn't your concern." But she didn't back down. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded envelope. "Dad, you always said I should learn how to use my money wisely. Well, this is how." She handed the envelope to Evan. Inside was a certified check, her inheritance, every dollar her father had given her when she turned 25. Evan looked stunned. "Ma'am, I can't accept this." Lila smiled through tears. "You can, because I believe people like you deserve a chance to stand back up. And I believe kindness is worth more than any fortune." The executives whispered among themselves. Richard stood speechless, his face pale, his pride cracking in front of the very people he ruled over. Lila turned to him, her voice breaking but resolute. "You built this company to prove you were powerful. I want to prove that compassion is more powerful still." Evan's eyes filled with tears. "You don't even know me. Why would you do this?" She shook her head softly. "Because someone should have done it for me, once." That single line hit her father harder than anything else. He remembered the years he'd ignored her dreams, dismissing her art, her charity work, her heart. He'd always called her naive, but in that moment, she was everything he wasn't, and everything he wished he could be. Evan left the building with shaking hands, holding an envelope that meant survival, hope, and a future. Lila stood watching him go, her eyes shining not with pride, but with peace. The next morning, Richard didn't show up at the office. Hours later, he appeared at Evan's small apartment, still in his suit, his eyes tired and red. He held out a folded paper. "Mr. Miller, I reviewed your application again. I owe you an apology and a position." Evan's voice faltered. "You don't have to," Richard interrupted, but this time his tone was quiet. "Yes, I do. My daughter reminded me what leadership means." Lila soon joined them, smiling as she saw her father extend his hand. It wasn't about the job anymore. It was about redemption. And as the morning light spilled through the windows, Richard finally said the words he'd never managed before. "Thank you, Lila, for teaching me how to be human again. We'd love to hear your story. What is the most memorable act of unexpected kindness you have witnessed or received? Share it in the comments below." Evan would go on to rebuild his life, helping others find work through a small nonprofit he founded years later, one that Lila quietly funded behind the scenes. And every time Richard visited, he would watch Evan greet each person with patience and dignity. It became the legacy neither money nor power could ever buy. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to remind the world that true kindness can change everything.